I think some don't even consider or imagine they could be selling the business one day, but it's not just about exiting, it's about exit readiness or building a sellable business.
And I do think it is a little ironic because the people who have a valuable business, they don't really want to sell it because it's valuable.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
implies that the people who are selling their business, maybe that already tells you something about the value of their business. If they're so willing to sell it, they're at the point where they're not getting any more value.
This question, usually what I say, because it depends of the business, is take a couple of days off, like
All about leverage for scaling here. So if every key decision runs through you, your business isn't worth what you think it is. Presented by Zapier, the AI automation company. Hello and welcome to the Small Team Big Scale podcast, the show where we talk about how tiny teams with big ambitions are doing more with less, scaling smarter, not harder, and building big businesses with teams that can fit around a dinner table. I'm your host, Ron Schmelzer, and on today's episode, we're talking with Muriel Touati, who is the founder and CEO of Exit 3D Studio and author of the new book, The Valuation Gap. Thank you so much for joining us, Muriel.
and thank you, Ron, for having me in the small team, big scale podcast. Yes. And
Yeah, and I think, this is going to be an interesting topic we haven't really talked about too much. We talked to a lot of small team founders, some of which are growing substantially big. We talked to some founders who are now doing 20, 30, 40, $50 million in revenue with just 10, 12 people. It's pretty remarkable. We've also talked to some larger CEOs, Wade Foster, CEO of Zapier, and Fabian Veit, CEO of Make, and Gina Bianchini, CEO of
oh, really
Mighty
nice.
Networks. And we've talked with Emmanuel Strachnov, CEO of Bubble. So a lot of great people that we've talked to. And of course, interesting people like Ben Broca, the founder of Polsia, who's running that interesting company. A lot of interesting French founders, I must point out,
Yeah.
some of which are based here in the US and some of which are not. So maybe before we jump in, talk a little about the framing for what this podcast is all about. And we're going to talk a lot about valuation, which of course value is the core of that word, right? And you may have noticed that two businesses, the same business, maybe even that are generating the same amount of revenue, when it comes time to exit, time to sell the company, get acquired, or raise revenue, raise a round of financing. But here we talk about the exit time. Some of them may be worth 1 times the revenue. Some may be worth 6 times the revenue. And the difference is almost nothing to do with the revenue itself. And it's wild. You'd think that a business making $2 million a year is worth, well, somewhere around 2 million plus or minus, right? With some multiples. But the buyers aren't buying revenue, right? They're buying some transferable value. And if every client relationship, every key decision, every dollar of the pipeline leaves somewhere between your own ears, especially if you're a very small team, that's not really a business. That's an expensive job that follows you around. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of the structural gaps that silently destroy business value, customer concentration, founder dependency, unpredictable revenue, weak digital assets, and some of those gaps that show up in almost every acquisition deal that, of course, Muriel has seen plenty of. She has a lot to say on this. And so I think that's what we're going to talk about here, because we talk a lot about the growing part. We talk about the building part. We talk about the automation and the AI and the humans, but we don't really talk about where this is all going. So I guess, Muriel, maybe introduce yourself to our audience. Tell us a little bit about how you got here and what you're working on.
Sure. So I became an entrepreneur in 2017 back in France. I moved to New York in 2021. I kept running the same business because it was online. It was an online training and coaching program to leverage LinkedIn, and I was working with independent consultant, an independent trainer and coach, and a small, service business owner as well. And in 2025, with a bit all of the change, I feel I some in the way I felt, the impact of AI. It didn't come right away, but in 2025, I started to feel it. So I said, okay, maybe it's time that I think about a new offer or that I start working in the US a little more because I only worked with the French market. And I heard that I could be buying a business. And I thought, oh, wow, that sounds like a great idea. I mean, I will have the client already, revenue already, the team, everything. Why not? I got pre-approved for a big SBA loan of $5 million. I learned that I could put like little money down as well. So I really went all in. I joined a business bank community. I evaluated more than 100 deals, like opening data room, checking the numbers, calculating, normalizing the SDE, like the seller's discretionary earning, EBITDA, all of that. And I submitted maybe 10, 12 letter of intent, and I got one offer accepted. Finally, in December, I got an offer accepted for a marketing agency that was specialized in LinkedIn. So that really made sense with what I was working on before. And then I started my due diligence and found out same issues I was able to see on paper in the other ones that you mentioned, founder dependency, customer concentration, revenue predictability, weak, acquisition system and digital system. At least in that company, they didn't have a problem with the acquisition engine. I think this was working good, but they were not able to retain their customers. They had a 40% logo churn every month. That was too much for me. I say, okay, I don't know what type of service they are doing. Like, are they delivering? Or maybe they're understaffed. So I decided to walk away from this. There were some other problems as well. And I could have continued searching to find the gem in the middle of all the businesses that are for sale. They should not be for sale because they're not ready for sale. But though, I could continue or I could build something new. And so I've decided to pivot a bit my business and create Exit 3D Studio. And it's a blend between what I was doing before with my LinkedIn accelerator and a blend of what I've learned. And because by creating that acquisition engine for businesses, you happen to reduce a good part of the founder dependency. You reduce customer concentration. You build a revenue predictability. Of course, it depends also of the business model. We will prefer, retainer rather than project-based, but both work to develop the predictability and the pipeline and just reinforce all the digital asset in the same way. So by focusing on that, I know that I am solving um, these problems in service businesses mainly. And yeah, so this is what I'm working on.
Yeah, very good. Well, he said a lot there. That's really very interesting. And actually, the interesting part is the SBA loan process, the process of you going out to try to find a business to acquire and then realizing that you might be better off building your own business, which happens a lot. Why, like, what motivated you first to think about buying a business, and
Yeah.
how difficult was it for the whole? You mentioned you qualified for a $5 million SBA loan, and I don't know if our listeners are even that familiar with that process because we have a lot of people who are just building things from scratch. So maybe talk a little about that acquisition perspective.
Sure. So, yeah, so I was looking at buying a business because when you do so, well, you can get financed by a loan. So you put maybe 10% down and you get a loan. So this is leverage of your money and you buy a cash flow. That amount of revenue is coming every month. So you get a loan to get the revenue and you have the team built already. You don't have to go through the hiring process right away. You will go when you start your business. You have enough proven offer, you have happy clients, you have the client base already. So all of this is great value. And I've learned that there's also more success rate when you buy a business than when you create one. Um, but the problem, like, I think one time I found a business that I really like, and this one was really good. I made the offer, and I really wanted it because it was perfect. It had none of the problem. And that was maybe one out of 100 deals that I evaluated. So it's really small percentage. But for this one, I got, doubled by a private equity who also saw the opportunity, and they were able to make a cash offer while I had to go through the SBA process. Even if I was pre-approved, I didn't have the money on my account to be buying directly. You still have to go through the process of the bank. So this one didn't work, but I think they had, they were perfect. There were no founder dependency, revenue were recurring, predictable, no customer concentration, and they definitely have all the digital asset acquisition engine, all to just perfect.
Yeah. Well, that's really great insight. So you've seen a lot of deals, and actually I'm curious about, your background. Obviously you're doing it for yourself, but I think you've reviewed for the book. And by the way, for our listeners, this is great timing because Muriel is the author of The Valuation Gap, What Buyers See That Sellers Missed, which will, by the time this podcast is published, will already be available. So you should take a look at it. I will make
Yes,
sure
it
to.
is. Yeah, it launched recently.
Yeah. And I'll link to it in the show notes. So you've seen all these deals. Maybe tell us a little about how you've seen so many deals. And also we talked a little bit about these four structural problems that show up regardless of the revenue numbers. And maybe you could tell us as to how when you've seen these, whether they matter, these things are only issues when you're a small team, or doesn't really matter the size of your team of these issues.
Yeah, I can say that it can happen in any type of businesses. It's not of the size or even of the industry. At the beginning, when you just learn deal making and you don't know exactly what to be comfortable with, just send a message on all those listings website where you see business for sale. You just, oh, you see this one might be good, like a truck company, a car wash, plumber. And then after you learn, like, for this you need a license, for this be careful because of this, for this, then you have some industry specific things you need to be looking for, and that's why at some point I I say to myself, like, okay, I'm only going to focus on marketing agencies because I know the industry, and I can uncover things more easily, and I know what I'll be buying instead of some other things that could be a bit too abstract for me, or way too different. And yeah, so this is how I have been seeing, and I put a lot of example in the book as well. I talk about, if I give some example of deal I have evaluated, there was, for example, a photography studio, a great photographer who was a one-person show, so fully founder dependency, 100%. And okay, he has all his material and he had great reference, and but there were no contract in the pipeline. A year and a half, it didn't have any revenue. The business was finished.
No.
And they still wanted $1 million for the business. To buy what exactly? Like past success of someone who's not staying. So this is an example. There was also this great. I thought it was the deal for me. I thought it was an intercom company in New York. I thought it was so great. And I had my advisor saying, okay, let's take this as the first deal, serious deal where you gain a lot of experience about because I don't think it's the right deal. So why? And so we were saying that there were three founders, so three owners, his dad, the dad of the three sons, and three wives. And that's seven people leaving the business as soon as you transition. Already one person disrupt a lot of things, but seven people working in the business are leaving at the same time to be replaced by me or one. That was just not gonna be a good thing. They only left maybe 10, 12 contractors that had they were maybe attached to the family, they were working for them, but working for a new owner, there were good chances that just go and go to the competition if they get anything better with them. So, yeah, so I didn't continue because you have to hire six other people. Even though they were saying the wives were not working, which it's hard to believe because they were getting still a salary. Maybe it was just pure tax fraud. I don't know. But yeah, so I just walk away from this one as well. But there is just a lot of examples, and it's crazy how they just put businesses that on the market, and they wanted so much money from it with no seller note, like no earn out or anything. They just wanted to leave the States and go to Florida somewhere with their $4.5 million. That was the idea, and just leaving half a business with all the management layer gone, everything, just contractors. Mm.
Yeah. Well, I think that's part of it. Having built and sold a couple of businesses myself, one of the things is that you always have a bigger estimation of your own value. And you're like, well,
It's
I built
true.
it. I spent all these years and it's so great for me. Surely it'll be great for you. And of course, that's very rarely how it is. As from the buyer's perspective, you're seeing all the risks, all the dangers, all the challenges. And so maybe as part of that, what is from the seller's perspective, what is, do you think, the biggest misconception that people have about what makes their team or their operation truly valuable versus just they've been good at hustling and making things work while they were there?
Yeah, well, I think there are several things I want to say from there. I know it's hard also for business owner or founder to hear those things. I just got one Amazon review on the book, and there was a bit a shock, like a moment of truth. I still got the 5-star review for it, but the person said, as a business owner, it's very depressing to read what is going wrong in my business. And that feels so bad. But I want to reassure in the fact that my business and all, the evolution of the businesses that I've had, I made all the mistake. Like almost I wrote the book most for myself, never do that again because you are in a jail, you are trapped. But I think most businesses I evaluated, they did not score bad on all. They just have maybe one that is wrong, two or three, sometimes four that is wrong. But on the book, at the end of each chapter, you have the what I call the buyer lens diagnostic, and you can evaluate where you rank, where you are, and what you should be focusing on first. And sorry, you had the double questions, and I think I missed the last part.
Yeah, it's more about like looking at from the buyer's perspective. They are trying to figure, like from the buyer's perspective, they're thinking about what is truly valuable and what's
What
operation.
is transferable? What will transfer with me? Like, yeah, what will stay and what will disappear? Client relationship, strong client relationship. You have the founder is doing, the account management, sell, all of this, it's probably gonna be gone. There were another agency where it was written, okay, this is the price, you get it. And the founder is ready to stay to be the salesperson. Yeah, because of course, otherwise, if he leaves, there were no more sales and no more people managing the client. So not only you buying a business, but you keep paying a salary for the owner forever. It's just some things don't fully make sense. And I know it's a hard truth for business owner, founder, even independent. I think even the worst, those who work alone, like they are everything. This is the hardest, but I think some don't even consider or imagine they could be selling the business one day. But it's not just about exiting, it's about exit readiness or building a sellable business. Because once when you build a business that you build a better business, you just have more freedom for yourself. Things are more predictable. It's just more comfortable. You just want to keep the business after that. Once you build a business that.
Yeah, exactly. As you're talking, I'm thinking all the good things that we talk about building a scalable business, ironically, make it a saleable business.
I'm sure this is what you probably talk about. Like if you talk
Yeah.
about AI systems and scalable operation must be built the right way as well. And choosing also the right business model is important at the
Mhm.
beginning or pivoting at some point because when you have to win new business every month to pay yourself at the end of the month is tough. And I've done it. And you take a month of vacation and you have no revenue.
That's right.
Even a week of vacation, it disturbs everything. And I
Yeah,
hear
that's
that all the time.
Yeah, that's why I was going to ask you, especially when you're looking at businesses to acquire, the ones that would seem to be the most attractive would have recurring revenue, whether they're a recurring revenue product business or even recurring revenue. You can do that in a content business, information business. There's a lot of, and just had a really interesting interview with a company in the service business that has
Yeah.
recurring revenue.
Yeah.
So, is that like first sign that there really is something here of sustainable value when you have that recurring revenue?
Absolutely, yes, because it compounds. When you add new clients, it's just a layer above, and you have a baseline, and it's you can forecast a retainer. It's in the contract. While a project based, for example, someone who will create website, okay, you have the website and that's it, or anything, construction or other. After a couple of days or weeks, the project is finished, then you have to win a new business. And and where there is a lot of strategy to upsell, cross-sell, have several offers, I think the most efficient way is to have a recurring revenue for the service, even if even a business that needs to have project-based work could still try to find a way of having those recurring. Um, sometimes building some SaaS in the business or other membership or but it's some things that add value to the exit price also and that lenders are more happy with this type of revenue as well. Buyers and you should be more happy when you what's coming the next month without having to add more business on top just with your own client. I think it's so comfortable.
Yeah. Well, especially for for me and for others who are founders, is like I would love to have businesses that don't require me to do everything at all the
Yeah.
time. And we talk a lot about this in the podcast and other places about systematizing tasks, SOPs, standard operating procedures, which
Yeah.
are really important because you want to not be so random every time you're doing something. You have a specific thing, checklists and playbooks. One of the interesting things that you've talked about, in addition to that, is systematizing decisions. And that will help it also make it more scalable and transferable, not just the tasks. So maybe you could talk a little bit about what you see as the difference between just the processes, the procedures, the playbooks, the checklists, and decision-making process, because you'd think that'd be the one area that, maybe you can't really fully automate.
Yeah, well, all has to do with delegation. When you have something you do regularly, you just create SOPs or training so someone else can do it exactly the same way that you do. But that's the same thing with decision. If maybe putting some scenario, if this is happening, then I will decide that. If this is happening, this will be that. Or just have some trusted a person in the business that you just trust their judgment, trust they can take the good decision when you're away for 2 weeks. That if anything happened that was out of scope, they could be taking the decision and yeah, or just having a escalation process as well, like know at what level to let you to approve. But I think for a lot of things, if you have built a team and you train them regularly, like they share the same knowledge as you, like daily, and they are there for the business, and they want the best interest for the business as well. And they have seen maybe because you can also document past big decision, and they can see the pattern and what will be good to do in that situation.
Are you seeing these changes now that people are making more use of AI, of agents, of automation? Maybe change in the way that the delegation is happening now to systems instead of just people.
True.
Has that improved things, and how are you seeing that change for yourself or for others?
Well, I think it's very useful to build systems. Is when you document a task that you do, you can after delegate to a person, or if it's really repetitive, you can definitely build a system for that using AI and other automation tools, or just use a tool that exists that can do the work. I know I was working for quite some time with an assistant, and at some point, I realized everything that I was comfortable delegating to her was repetitive task, and I was able to build automation around everything she was doing. So at some point, I didn't need her anymore. What I need more now is a developer. My new assistant is a developer because he's building the automation for me.
Yeah, and even that's getting as easier and easier every day.
Yeah.
Well, maybe talk a little bit about your organization. How big is your organization? Maybe I think tell us a little bit again about what you're focused on and how you are thinking about building and scaling your business.
Yeah, so I have been a solo entrepreneur for a long time, but working with contractors all the time for the different needs that I have. So on a recurring basis, I've been working with a developer for some months now. When I was launching the book, I needed like the press release, the kit, I find my PR person for that. So I always have a network of contractor that I'm working with for the SEO, for building the website, for many different things, for ads at some point, video editing. I have the team, but they are project based for me when there is a need.
So did you self-publish your book or were you working with the publisher?
No, I self-publish it to publish it quickly. I've tried previously the process, like formal process where you create your book proposal. Just a book proposal. Once you've done that, you don't want to write the book anymore. Like it's so much work, and then you have to go and present it to like a lot of potential publisher. And yeah, I think once I finished it, I didn't feel doing the book anymore. It was something completely different. So this
Interesting.
one, I felt, okay, I'm going to create the outline, like, does it make sense? And then after, I just go chapter by chapter and get it done. And I
Yeah.
got some help also for like reading, development, editing, those things. I've hired some help for that.
Yeah, that's really good. Well, I found that I've written and published a few books myself, and I'm
Yes.
putting another book together. And I did put together the book proposal. I'm thinking, wait a second, if I'm going to put together this proposal, I might as well just do it. And I think this is part
Yeah.
of the universe of things are changing now. If I truly believe that you could do more as small, then that applies to publishing as well, just as much as it applies to every other business. So it's kind of interesting to
Yeah.
hear that from you as well. So let's dig a little bit deeper here. So especially talking, we think about the value and valuation. At the end of the day, you're trying to build something that has value, not just for you and for yourself, but others. And I do think it is a little ironic because the people who have a valuable business, they don't really want to sell it because it's valuable.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
implies that the people who are selling their business, maybe that already tells you something about the value of their business. If they're so willing to sell it, maybe they're at the point where they're not getting any more value. So maybe you could talk a little bit about value, whether it's scientific or it's psychological, and maybe a little bit about what you've seen from different buyers as to the reasons why they're selling.
Yeah. So for the value, it really comes down to the four. So how much revenue you're making, this is as is important. Is it growing year after year, or is it like declining, going up? This there is the revenue. Then we calculate the EBITDA and we take this as the reference. And depending on a lot of different factors, we're going to decide on a multiple, like will the valuation be a 2 time EBITDA or a 6 or 8 time EBITDA? And this is the valuation gap. And why would it be 2 or why would it be 8? But because is it upward trend the past 3 years plus trailing 12 months? Is it growing or do we have a dip? Is it founder independent? Do we have revenue predictability? What also the quality of the revenue? Um, any customer concentration? And anything digital, do we have an acquisition engine? Are we able to get business almost automatically, or does it come from referral, word of mouth, something that is usually more attached to the founder than the business? If it has all of that, great, you probably get 6 or 8 time EBITDA. And if the EBITDA is, say, $1 million, well, that will be $6 to $8 million valuation. Well, if you don't have all of that, just a few, maybe you land at the 2 time EBITDA. Well, that's just $2 million value. And the founders that are thinking to sell, I see, well, those who are close to retirement and just that's life, and they don't have a child or a family member or even an employee that would like to continue the business. So they are just selling it just to have money for the retirement, or sometimes they will just stop the business and just be out of business without selling or anything. And that will be a loss for the founder and for a future buyer because there were probably business being generated and it will just stop. So we have this. Another type that I have seen a lot, and those are younger founders. They are a bit of serial entrepreneurs. create business, they sell it. Maybe they have three businesses at the same time. They're selling one just to have more cash flow for a fourth one. So yeah, I have seen those young profile there. They create business that they sell, and they have several at the same time. And we have the those who are going that are closer to retirement. And I think any other investors like private equity or other at some point they are also selling once they've made enough profit or they have merged two, three businesses at once. They can make great profit and just buy more and do that again. They will sell as well.
Yeah. That's interesting. I think it's for the founder who's a serial entrepreneur, a parallel entrepreneur, honestly, doing a lot of things at once, and then the one that's at retirement age. I think the irony of it is that the person who's building multiple businesses at the same time is building something that actually can be sold because they're treating it like something that is not their only baby, their only source of revenue. They're
Yeah,
responsible for everything. Whereas the retirement founder, actually, their business, ironically, is probably less sellable because they've wrapped their whole self into it. And so it's kind of funny, even if you're reaching retirement age, you should probably be thinking about your business being not more disposable, but more dispensable of you, so that as you get closer to retirement, start taking more vacations, start,
yeah,
start bringing other people into the organization, start treating it as something that you want to eventually sell. Otherwise, it'll probably not be worth much when it comes time to retire. That's the irony, I think,
yeah,
of this whole thing.
yeah. I think it's true.
Yeah, well, also, one of the other things I found is that sometimes buyers are acquiring maybe even strategically. Maybe they want to acquire customer base if there's something there, and
True.
maybe they'll
Yeah,
shut down the business, or maybe they're acquiring to do some market expansion. In my case, my last business, Cognilytica, we had a training and certification product, and we sold it to a training and certification company,
yeah.
and they were able to, like, we hit a revenue ceiling. We couldn't sell that much more just because nobody had ever heard of us. But this company, which had tremendous brand recognition, the moment they added it to their product line, it like multiplied by 20x. It was just crazy, the
Oh,
growth.
wow. Yeah,
But
those are like strategic acquisition to expand, get new offer, yeah, by the client base, or just it's just a good opportunity to have yeah, but often I think it's for the client, and when they know they can, lay off a couple of people because they already have the resource. So, and just a great example you gave, like they didn't have that service. They brought the service. They were able to offer that service to their client base, and it exploded. Yeah.
yeah. So maybe from your perspective, are you thinking about yourself, building maybe more businesses, maybe businesses that you in turn can sell? I know you're the operator buyer. You're buying a business to operate, to run and to buy for cash
Yeah,
flow.
but with the goal to have the business that runs without me, I think I was especially interested in those who already had an operator inside also. Could be a bit harder to find, or those absentee uh, businesses where the owner is not necessary, like laundromat
Hmm.
or car wash, or those sort of even like storage or those sort could be interesting, but there is a lot of competition and now they sell for so much money. And sometimes I'm thinking, yeah, maybe I can just build it myself. I just don't know how.
Right.
But maybe I could be doing it. And yeah, after I come with my, digital marketing expertise, and this is something I can always plug into any businesses, is yeah. That's a bit of the goal, to have several businesses. It's just sometimes when you do it, you focus at one at a time, first wait that it,
Hmm.
profitable and going well, and you don't leave too soon, and you have the time to be focusing on other projects. Those are, you can consider them like project.
That's true. So, for listeners who are listening, maybe that they have too much depending on them, maybe from your personal experience and your advice, what advice would you give them as maybe the first two things or the first two decisions that they should really systematize first? If everything is so dependent on them, they're the single bottleneck, they're doing everything, and they're like, okay, I want to build something that has greater value beyond me. Where should I start? What are the one or two places you think would provide the highest immediate impact and leverage?
Yeah, I like this question. Usually what I say, because it depends of the business, is take a couple of days off, like all of a sudden. Like, don't prepare for it. Just don't be there for 3 days. See what happens and resolve those issues. Was it like a client that didn't get an answer? Was it like no more sale were happening? No delivery? Something, see what stops. And what is stopping is what you should be focusing on.
That's good. Now that's assuming you have a business that's already hopefully doing something. If your business isn't doing anything and not going anywhere, taking 3 days off will probably not have any impact because, well,
Well, still, it will still, but yeah, or another thing is documenting everything that you're doing.
right.
Yeah.
That's good.
Mm.
Well, this is good so far. I mean, I think for our listeners, this really is an interesting and different take. We were always talking about the building and operating part, and haven't really thought about too much the other end of that, the value to someone else. So I think this is really interesting. But of course, the irony of it, and this is for whatever the reason, the first time this ever clicked for me, that if you want to build something scalable, you need to build something that's saleable, or something that's saleable is something that's scalable. So ironic, and probably not something you'd want to sell once you reach that point of scalability, unless there are reasons that you want to do that. So I think this is some pretty good stuff. The light bulb moments really
Mhm.
have been great. So I usually ask the same three questions to everybody, what I call the rapid fire takeaways, because everybody gives different answers. And think about this really from your perspective. So the first question I always ask has to do with tools, because people always want to know about tools and technology and automation. So for you, what is one AI tool or automation or any other tool that you absolutely can't run your business without? The one that gives you and your team the 10x leverage every single week.
I think it's Claude at this point.
Yeah, everybody's saying Claude. It's funny. I used to get different answers, but Anthropic is like really they're doing it. They're really killing it. I have been hearing more open source models, people talking about that, but yeah, for sure. Let's talk a little bit about now processes then. This is something I'm sure you have a lot to say about. So, what is one system or process that you think every lean leverage first team should have in place by the time they hit their first $1 million in revenue? The thing that separates what we call the scalers, the ones who are getting every dollar they put in, they're getting $2, $3, they're scaling their time. They put 1 hour in, they get better value, separating them from what's called the grinders, the ones that they spent a lot of time and effort to get to 1 million. It'll take twice as much effort to get to 2 million. What do you think separates them? Maybe something you might tell people to stop doing, or maybe something that they should start doing today.
Okay, I think in my perspective will be in marketing because this is where I'm coming from. I would say your lead generation or your sales should be, fully automated, not be figuring out, should not be testing campaign anymore. You should have something that work. And you could be adding more channel, more acquisition channel as well in case, I don't know, social media close or block you. Um, yeah, so it has to be in digital marketing that, and I'm sure there is many other things we could think of, but
Mm, that's good perspective. So these teams you should think about, not you should have a scalable, leveraged marketing system that works. A marketing
Yes.
that you can just basically keep cranking, and something that you've proven, not having to restart each month from zero, or you're still experimenting on what channels work.
No more experimentation. You should have something that work, and you can experiment to add another one and another one just to make sure, because you also don't want to depend on one channel. Just you don't want to depend on one client to bring all the revenue. You don't want just one channel because it's risky. If something happens, like platform, they sometimes they just ban you, for no reason. Sometimes you don't even know why what you did,
Yeah.
like it just completely different. But at some point, I created a small YouTube channel just for entertainment, for fun. They managed to block me from it. I don't even know why. So, and for a long time, I was not able to access the email.
Mm.
This time I was able to do an appeal, but why? So YouTube, they just block you. YouTube, Google, sometimes can be LinkedIn,
Mm.
Facebook, Meta. So yeah, having just one channel is risky.
Yeah,
It's
which
better.
platform band you mentioned just now? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Not for that small channel. It was a YouTube channel. So
Oh,
I could not access the Google account, the Gmail, and I could not accept access the YouTube account either. I didn't even check if the channel is still up and running because maybe it is. They just blocked me. And yeah,
wow. Well, I'm glad it.
sometimes you just get your account hacked. At some point, I had my WhatsApp hacked.
Wow. Well, I'm glad it wasn't your personal Google account, because then you'd be.
Oh, that was just a little something. Yeah, it was not even a Google Workspace account. It was a free one.
Hmm.
Mm.
Well, anyway, that's pretty scary. And then I guess the last question is general tip. So if you could give one piece of advice to a founder who's running that really small team, the dinner table size team, who wants to scale, and I know you've given a lot of advice so far, but like maybe what's some additional advice you might give as a parting suggestion?
Yeah, I think we talk about a lot of things. Just if you want to go further or have everything in writing, you can, grab a copy of my book or even download the first chapter free on my website, exit3dstudio.com. So slash the dash valuation dash gap. I think that it will be in the show notes, or even take the exit readiness scorecard on my website because you can see in less than 5 minutes where you stand. And I know again, and I apologize how depressing it can be as a comment. I was very surprised by that review, but yeah, it can feel difficult to say, wow, I did that. But it can also bring a light bulb and you will know why you are capped with your growth. Definitely. Like knowing that, figuring things out, you will unlock more growth.
Fantastic. Well, this has been a fantastic interview. Some interesting and new and different insights. I think this is great. So I want to thank you, Muriel. Thank you so much for joining and sharing your insights with our audience.
Well, thank you, Ron, for having me. It was a pleasure sharing all those insights as, as a prospective buyer. I learned so much from this journey. So I just am so happy to share the word.
Well, that sounds great. Well, we'll stay connected because you have some
Yes,
really
please.
interesting insights. So for our listeners, I always give you a mantra for the week. So your mantra for this week is, as I just said it, to build something saleable, you got to build something scalable. We're all about leverage for scaling here. So if every key decision runs through you, your business isn't worth what you think it is. So build the systems that make the decisions, not just the tasks, transferable. And if you love this interview with Muriel Touati, I want you to hit that subscribe button, leave a review, and share it with a founder friend who's still running every decision through their own inbox and wondering why the business won't scale without them. So I want you to think big, stay lean, and scale smarter. Small teams that scale big aren't the future, they're the now. If this episode has you inspired to learn more, hit that subscribe button, share it with your crew, and join the movement over at scalabrate.com. That's SCALEBRATE.com. Until next time, think big, stay lean, and scale smarter, because small teams have mega potential. And thanks for tuning in to the Small Team, Big Scale podcast.